Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman. Strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of Superman.
Well, if you haven't guessed by now, the show's about Superman. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of What's the Buzz? I'm your host, Mad Dog DeCipio, joined as I am each and every week by the Pitbull, Amelia, the Pitbull Chapman. How are you, kid? What's happening?
Doing good. How are you?
Staying out of trouble?
And not this week.
No, I was going to say that's not what your husband said. Yeah, we have a really interesting show and a very, very special guest, a friend of mine, longtime friend of mine, joining us. She has experience both in front of and behind the camera, and tonight I'm sticking her little hiney in front of the camera. Karen Rayner joins us, and she is a business entrepreneur. It says so right there, Karen, so I have to tell them that you're a business entrepreneur. How are you, kid?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I have to tell people, we were just talking about this off camera. I've known Karen for almost damn near 15 years, and this is the first time we've ever seen each other face to face. Is that not remarkable?
No, that's just weird.
It is weird. It's frightening. It really is. It's frightening. So we are brought to you by Wrestling with the Future Radio Network. This is the What's the Buzz podcast. Yes, you heard me right. It's not a podcast. It's a podcast. And tonight we are continuing in our endeavor to bring you some of the most unsolved mysteries in the country, in fact, around the world. We got a couple this week from Hollywood. The first is this young man right here. His name is George Reeves. You know him best as Superman. He actually died in 1959, June of 1959, 1 month before my birthday. And I grew up watching his reruns of Superman, as did most kids back in the early 60s. A very beloved actor. He had a lot of friends. He made a lot of goodwill with people. But for some reason or another, and Amelia, you and I and Karen are going to try to endeavor to find out who, what, and why, and maybe get some answers as to who killed Superman. So let me start with you, Amelia.
Yes.
What is your take on the whole Superman angle? What do you think? What happened here?
I think it was basically a love gone wrong. Could have been that, and a jealous, maybe affair that he had, and that's what happened. And
well, the affair is an understatement.
Unfortunately, it was 3 days before he was supposed to get married.
Yeah, well, he was a beloved figure, but he also was a horn dog. So so Karen, you're shaking your head. Talk to me.
Like, this is my first experience with you face to face here. So, it's kind of, I'm putting the face to the voice, and I'm like, yeah, that's fucking Angelo right there.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So here's what we know, Karen. They tell us that George Reeves was a very affable, beloved actor. He had lots of friends. They also say that he had a ferocious sexual appetite. So let's talk about what may or may not have gotten him into trouble with certain higher ups in Hollywood. He certainly didn't mince words about who he liked and who he didn't. You got to respect the guy that's that honest. But perhaps showing up at a party with your boss's wife may not be such a great idea. You're going to see a picture of that tonight, too, by the way. So what is your take on Superman?
Well, you know me a little bit, and honestly, I don't get a good feeling that it's what they say it was.
Right.
I lived in Hollywood for 13 years, and Holly weird. And
yeah, exactly.
yeah, if things don't go, and it's, I don't know if it is as prevalent as it was back then, but I mean, if you did not please the higher ups, then they just eliminated your ass. So,
well, it hasn't changed much in all these years. They're a bit more discreet about it now. Back in the day, they just cut your body in half and left you on Hollywood Boulevard. Oh, wait, that's Thursday's show.
I was going to say,
The
wrong
Black
show.
Knight. Here's what we know. Okay, so here's what we know about George Reeves. As Amelia pointed out early on, he was just days away from being married to Lenore Lemmon. Now, Lenore, you have to understand about Lenore Lemmon. She had a ferocious appetite for finance, particularly George Reeves' finance. She hit the mother lode when she met him. He was making up to $10,000 a week doing Superman. We're talking about 1957, 58, 59. Okay, so Superman was only on the air. People need to understand this. Superman was only on the air for just under 3 years. So, and people don't get that because it's such a beloved part of Americana. And George Reeves, embodied Superman. He also, interestingly enough, that may have had a part in his untimely and early demise. It is said that he loathed that role so much that he was willing to do just about anything to shed the red and blue cape at any given moment. And he endeavored to try to coax his boss, Eddie Mannix, to do that. Perhaps he went about it the wrong way because he tried to coerce Mrs. Eddie Mannix into telling her husband. Well, she told her husband, but she didn't tell him George Reeves wants another gig. She told him, hey, I'm having an affair with Superman. Not a real smart thing, Amelia. Karen, what do you think?
It just like to me, and the house that he died in is actually the one that she bought him as well.
Well, you're going to see that house in a minute, actually. So Karen, you're the newbie here. Let's I'm going to put you on the spot here. Talk to me, kid.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. I'm good like that.
Yeah.
Amelia should tell you.
It sounds to me like she kind of used him a little bit. He was getting married to another woman, huh?
He sure was. Let's take a look at this. This is one of the things that we love to do here, Karen, because you're a newbie. We're gonna break you in good. Okay.
Is it time for that yet? My favorite.
I promised I was going to be gentle, but we're going to break cherry on Karen tonight. So here is what we got. I want to show everybody. This is something we call show and tell.
Yay! My favorite.
The whole thing was, and all of this Superman started with you see it in front of you, BuzzFeed. There's a website called BuzzFeed that did an expose, and when they did, the floodgates of info opened, and we know more now about George Reeves than we ever have as an actor. Or
Yes.
okay, you're going to see several pictures, a lot of pictures, in fact, of him in various degrees of Superman costume, from different color costumes to black and white to Technicolor. These were all publicity stills used at the time to market Superman. You know, he had that smile that everybody liked. He was apparently a very likable guy. His castmates liked him. The kids loved him.
Oh, absolutely loved him.
There's a story I'm going to tell you after this show and tell. I want you to take a look at this. I want to stop that picture there for a minute. You're looking at George Reeves at 45 years old. He is completely white at 45. Okay? Just to give you an idea that, and he died the year this photo was taken. In fact, he died not too long after this picture was taken. But you're looking at a guy that was 45 years old in that. And now you're looking at a guy that was 25. Here he's about 40.
Mm-hmm.
These are some early acting shots he had done back in the day. Trivia question. Did you know that he was in Gone with the Wind?
Yes.
He was. He certainly was. I want you to see this photo again. I'm going to keep it there for just a second. This is Mama Reeves. This is his mother. His mother was one of the very first people to call foul on this. She knew something wasn't right. She said, somebody killed my son, and I want to find out who. She died before she ever could. You see her there on the set, the Superman set. Probably the most famous picture of George Reeves. That dog would be very important. That was his beloved dog.
Sam.
Again, there you see him at 45, completely white. We're going to see some people now, really important people, and I want you to take a look at this photo again, because you're going to see some pictures. That's the house, okay? I want people to understand something. It's important. What you're looking at, those two windows above the garage, you can't, I don't know how much of it you can see, but in the rest of that picture is the rest of the A-frame of the roof of that house. The room above the garage was his bedroom. Those two windows were literally George Reeves' bedroom. And party guests downstairs were cavorting so loudly they almost didn't hear the gunshot. Okay? But when they heard that shot, and by the way, they didn't stop talking either. They only slightly muffled down as Lenore Lemmon uttered the words, "Oh, look, I told you he was going to kill himself." Why would she say that if she didn't already know what was coming? That was the first thing. The second thing about those two windows, he was either pushed from or thrown out those windows, either just before or just after he was shot. We don't know if he was shot going out the window or whether he was shot in the room and pushed out the window, or whether he tried to jump out the window. Either way, they found bullet holes outside, inside, and multiple bullet holes inside. They claim, however, this is the problem. They claim that George Reeves committed suicide. This is a very interesting guy. We're going to keep here for just a second. Again, I'm going to go back. Here he is. How do you commit suicide in the back of the head twice?
There's no
How do you
possible
do
way.
that? Can somebody tell me how to do that? I guess you didn't do it right the first time. You had to do it again.
No.
They found 5 bullet holes in the bedroom. They found 2 holes in his head. They found bullet holes outside on a, I guess you want to call it like a trash can caddy that
Yes.
was made of like a fence, like a wooden fence, at which they recovered. This guy, his name was William Bliss, Bill Bliss. He claims to be the first witness to see George Reeves' body outside. Karen, in a case like this, guy comes to your door and says, there's a body in your driveway. What's the first thing you're going to do? What's the first thing you're going to do?
Call the cops.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, see if the guy is alive or call the cops. I mean,
Yeah.
not
But
matter
that's not what
but-
happened. That's not what happened. Amelia, what happened?
Well, what happened was, first of all, his fiance said, "Tell him I was downstairs. Tell him I was downstairs." First of all,
Yeah.
she caved that,
He-
and then
they said to him, come on in.
yeah, come on in. Tell him I was downstairs. Tell him I
Can't
was
make this stuff up.
downstairs.
You
Yeah.
can't, I swear to you,
Uh-huh.
you can't make this shit
No.
up. I tell
And-
people every week,
Yeah.
Karen, one of the things I love to tell people every week
If
is
he cannot
you
make
can't
this shit up. That's what he says every time. Yeah.
Because it's too fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
It's just too bizarre.
And then they said that they found his body on top of the bed, naked. That was another story. So they
Yeah.
couldn't keep their story straight.
No.
And the
No.
bullet was underneath him. So how can you commit suicide with a bullet underneath your body? So
All right,
that
now
was
you're
another
looking at a
situation.
couple of this picture. This is the only photo from inside the house that night.
Yes.
The gentleman on the couch and the woman with him. They are the gentleman, as you see, is doesn't look too terribly pleased to be there at this moment. His name is Eddie Mannix. The woman with him is not Mrs. Eddie Mannix. Okay, you're going to see Mrs. Eddie Mannix in a moment. He is a studio head. Okay, a studio head for Paramount Pictures at the time. Interestingly enough, he's there at the invitation of Lenore, not George. George finished filming that day. He was tired and he wanted to go to bed. So what does his wife to be do? What she does is she has a party.
Yes.
She has a party.
Mm-hmm.
This is, of course, George Reeves' post-mortem after he passed. He looks very clean there. You're going to see another picture of George. By the way, Gene LaBelle, this professional wrestler, Gene LaBelle, was a dear friend of George, and they were at a wrestling match the night he died. And Gene LaBelle was also at the house as one of the invited guests. You're going to see, okay, this photo ended up being, here we go. This photo ended up being one of the very last photos ever of George Reeves. If you can look at his face on the left-hand picture, tell me, Karen, what do you notice about that photo?
I'm looking. There seems to be marks on his forehead and his cheek.
There are, for sure. The mark you see on his forehead is a bullet hole. It is a interesting bullet hole because it is an entrance wound, not an exit wound. If you assume that the individual was shot in the back of the head, the exit wound would be huge,
Right.
such as the kind that took off John F. Kennedy's head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, you can see a hole. There is literally a bullet hole you're looking at on his forehead. But it goes in, not out. So he was not shot from the back, according to that photo. He was shot from the front. So he saw who shot him. And the picture on the right, of course, once again, is post-mortem picture of George Reeves in his casket. This was a commercial. Oh, by the way, just for historical reference, take a look. On the bottom of that aerial map, you'll see what says Charles Manson's home. Okay? The Manson murders.
Right.
George Reeves' home is in the center of that photo. The East Hills Drive, where Bill Bliss lives, was up top. Okay? No one before or since has ever seen, contacted, had contact with, or knew Bill Bliss. I think Bill Bliss was a pseudonym for someone else. I don't think the man's name was ever Bill Bliss. I still don't. I think that he was part of and there you go. There is George and his mother in the driveway. He had shown her this car he bought for her. It would end up being one of the last times he would see his mother. In fact, it would be the last time that he saw his mother. But that is the home. And we're going to take another look. That dog, I said that dog would be very important. There's George with his beloved pooch, and that is Lenore Lemmon in that photo. This was taken 1 week prior to the murder. It's dated 1959 June. 1 week prior to the murder or suicide, however you want to look at this. That pooch ended up disappearing. Nobody knows what happened to that. Oh, here you go. There's Lenore. And there she is again. She's holding, by the way, the mask from a Creature from the Black Lagoon. She was in that film. She was just a B actress at the time. Okay. You're looking at Mr. and Mrs. Eddie Mannix back in the day. Pre-success, pre-Hollywood big shot. This is called Scandia's Restaurant. They say George Reeves had his last meal at Scandia Restaurant. But you would think if he had a meal and then died later that night, he'd have food in his stomach.
Correct.
He did not. His stomach was empty of any contents. Nothing. Bone dry, not even alcohol, which he drank very sparingly. These were the doctors at the coroner's inquest. That, my friends, is Tony Mannix. That's the boss's wife. Someone snapped them at, I believe it was called Ciro's in either Hollywood or in the vicinity of Hollywood. Ciro's Italian restaurant, which the building is still there, but Ciro's is long out of business. So someone snapped that photo and it made the newspapers. Eddie Mannix was not a happy camper when he saw his wife on the front page with George Reeves, as you can well imagine. We're going to talk about all this right now. And lest we say there she is again. Okay. And that's Lenora. That's Lenora. Okay.
I got a question. I got a quick question for you.
Yeah, sure.
When he was having the affair with Tony, was he simultaneously also dating Lenora? Or did Lenora, was she brought in? Yeah.
Bingo.
But
yep.
Back in those days, they also, a lot of stars, especially the males or whatever, If they were too young, they kept them single. If they were older and they wanted to, make their image a little more wholesome, right? And
Wait, go ahead.
they'd marry him off,
Well,
and
I'll tell you what, interesting that you say that. I have something I want to share with you. I'm going to read a little bio of Eddie Mannix. Okay? Eddie Mannix. Studio head Eddie Mannix.
All right.
Joseph Edgar Allen, real name, by the way, Joseph Edgar Allen Mannix, was an American film studio executive and producer. He is remembered for his work as a fixer, quote unquote fixer, who was paid to cover up Hollywood stars' often colorful private lives and to protect their public image and profitability for that studio. Hello there, Karen Rayner.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, but also he was also had his little on the side as well.
It's different though, because he's the boss. He's allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
it doesn't matter. I mean, he had an image. That was his wife.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
they do speculate, and this is funny. There was a couple of people, I believe they might have been co-stars or whatever, that attested to the fact that she had permission.
Yes,
to
exactly.
George Reeves.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they would take them with them to their little vacations.
Yeah.
I call bullshit on that because there's no way. There's no way back then that they would even tolerate that. They don't do.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, Lucy and Desi were in separate beds for God's sake.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Let's take a look at this. Again, William Bill Bliss. No one knows who he is or where he came from. We're going to take a look at this. You've seen this before, but we're going to take a look again. I want you to, I'm showing you again for a very specific reason. I want you to spot what you didn't the first time, which is right here. Hello. Television Superman ends life with pistol. Actor George Reeves had argued with guests. Not true. Fiance had premonition. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Actor George Reeves' TV Superman fatally shot himself in the head early today with the German Luger pistol. Again, a screw up. In a suicide which police said was predicted by the woman's intended fiance. Now, first of all, again, you have to remember, as Karen brought up a moment ago, look at the time period we're talking about. This is the 50s. Everything was God, American apple pie and wholesome television, and what you saw on television was the way the actors and actresses were in real life. That's what America believed.
They had to
be. Of course, it's all a bunch of horse shit.
Yeah.
None of it's true, and none of it ever was true and still isn't today. But what you're looking at is absolute propaganda by the LA Police Department to set up an alibi for the fiance, Lenore Lemmon. This gentleman was also at an invited guest of the party. His name is Robert Condon. He was an actor and writer. He says that he didn't hear a thing. He says he never heard anything. No shot, no nothing. This is George Reeves' mother. There's Tony Mannix. You're going to see, there's Tony Mannix again with George. And there's Lenore Lemmon. Interesting to me, too, Karen and Amelia, that Lenore Lemmon looks an awful lot like Tony Mannix, don't she?
She sure does.
I beg to differ. She looks like she sucked on a lemon. I mean, she looks miserable in every single. She's not.
Yeah, well, that's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
That is a possibility. So let's talk about this. We have some interesting stuff. In the documentary, Look Up in the Sky, The Amazing Story of Superman, Jack Larson, who played Jimmy Olsen, he said that when he first met George Reeves, he told him that he enjoyed his performances in the production of So Proudly We Hail. According to Larson, Reeves said that if Mark Sandrich had not died, he would not be there in this, quote, monkey suit. He loathed the role of Superman, and he disdained television. Yet he is forever and a day will always be known as Superman, TV's Superman. The things he despised. In June of 59, things started to look up for George. He had just renewed his contract. He was getting back to work as a director. He had agreed to do another season of Superman for double the salary. That's the only way to keep an unhappy actor happy, double his salary, in which he would also direct a few of the episodes. That's the deal he made. Who do you think he made the deal with, you guys?
I would say Mannix.
Absolutely. Eddie Mannix, his boss, his studio head. Absolutely. He was also engaged to Lenore Lemmon, a New York showgirl. Lemmon moved into his house. They would be married on June 18th. That day would never come because just days prior, George Reeves would be found dead in his room with a fatal gunshot wound to the head. It was ruled a suicide by officials. 2 bullet holes were subsequently found in his room, making the suicide angle highly unlikely. George Reeves' case was closed in record time, 1 day. They closed the case in 1 day, in 24 hours, and was never reopened, and even not to this very day was never reopened. It's never been investigated. No one's ever called bullshit on it. And you're to believe they are making you to believe that this was also neatly done, that that was just a suicide. It was a lover's quarrel. He was depressed on being, typecast as Superman. I don't know how typecast he was as Superman. He was doing other films. He was, he only had 1 season left. He just re-upped for double the salary. Was it all a smokescreen, Amelia? Did Eddie Mannix set this up in motion? What do you think, Karen?
There's so many variables here.
It's a case that can take you anywhere. It really, honestly, it really is.
Honestly, I think, there's so much more I would have to explain for this, but it seemed to me like Tony Mannix was kind of like his keeper. She bought his house. Okay. Yeah. He signed up, for another season. He said to other people he didn't want to, do it. And here comes Lenore Lemmon. Lenore Lemmon also, she was not a saint. I mean, she was something else in her day and the circles that she went around, If you look at some of the last pictures of him, yes. I mean, he looks absolutely hollow. That's the best way that I can describe in his eyes. Yes. He looks like a
dead man walking.
Like a browbeaten husband 50 times over. I mean, he was just completely controlled. He
looks like a dead man walking. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Lifeless. He was completely lifeless. But in spite of that, and I wholeheartedly agree with you, but in spite of that, witnesses have come forward who have no connection to each other, saying that he was in just the greatest mood that day, the day he died.
He may have been.
Tell everybody about that.
Yeah, he was real happy because Kellogg's was going to pick up another season, and he was going to be able to direct more. And he was about to get married, even though she was a drunk all the time. But he was happy, and he was living his life again. And he was just going on his honeymoon and come back and be able to direct. And after this, he was done. But he loved that he was going to be spending more time with children and doing more stuff with children in hospitals because he loved being around children. And he was going to be able to go sing to them because he loved singing. I found out he loved playing his guitar, and he loved singing in Spanish and different languages to children because he loved doing a lot of stuff for Children Foundation.
He also had an album in the works. You mentioned the guitar. He had an album in the works that few people realized that he could actually sing. And believe it or not, there are recordings of George Reeves singing, and he's got a great voice.
And he wanted to be more westerns, actually.
Yeah,
as well.
Absolutely. Two of his friends, in fact, he was doing a film with both, were Gig Young and Alan Ladd.
Yes.
Both are known as Western actors. George was in a film with them where he had to grow a beard, and the film was released. It was released in 1959. He would not live to see it, though.
No.
His final work, he would never live to see it. He did the work and moved on. So, Karen, talk to me about this inquisitive mind you got. What are you going with this now? Oh, by the way, just so you know, and before I go to Karen again, just so you know, Tony Mannix was repeatedly referred to in the BuzzFeed piece as the handler.
Oh, yes.
That's funny.
She was called the handler.
That's what I said, is she's a handler because she basically, it was kind of like being a buffer between, the executive and whatever. And, she used her femininity to kind of keep him in line. But I mean, she bought his house. She pretty much controlled everything. That's why I'm trying to figure out how the hell did Lenore get in here? And I think she was pulled in, honestly, to create a distance between George and Tony.
I believe Lenore Lemmon was, I think she was a pawn in this, a willing pawn. I believe she was bought and paid for by Eddie Mannix. I believe that she and Tony Mannix knew each other well. I believe that this purported jealousy between the two was nothing more than two actresses acting. That's what I believe. I know a lot of people, and we've had them on the show, Amelia, we've had a lot of actors, a lot of actresses, a lot of Hollywood people on the show. And one thing that's very difficult is to get an actor or an actress out of character, to get them to be themselves. It's like when we were doing professional wrestling. If you can get a wrestler to stop being a wrestler, you may actually have a great conversation with someone.
Exactly. And that's hard to do sometimes because you don't know if you're talking to the actual person or the actual wrestler or wrestler.
And Karen knows that for gospel, Karen, like I said, worked in not only in front of but behind the camera in the film business. Now she's seen a lot of different kinds of people and personalities and a lot of I know, and we both know who we're talking about too. A lot of different people. And so here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. They had to be fairly convincing at what they did to be able to really snow job, and I'm going to make an Elvis reference in a minute, to snow George in the believing that all these things were happening around him. I bring the Elvis reference in the term snow job. Colonel Parker, Elvis's famous manager, belonged to an organization. It was, I swear to God, it was a real organization called the Snowmen of America. These were guys, they're all carnival barkers, TV producers, Hollywood hotshots. They belonged to this club called the Snowmen of America. You've heard it, the snow job. This guy's laying a snow job on you. That's what we're talking about. And I think George Reeves was the victim of a snow job. And I think that Eddie Mannix couldn't handle the fact that his wife was seen cavorting around in public with a guy that was clearly and obviously very popular among the general masses, especially with kids and younger adults, but a guy who had a promising career, and he was going to make sure that he shut that career down before it ever got started again. That's my take on it.
You did state before that he did not like his role, right? He did not like his role.
No, he didn't like being typecast as Superman.
Right. You know, he didn't like that role.
But he loved being an actor.
Sure. But, you know, back in those days, too, I mean, they had people under contract. They put you in the movie that they wanted to put you in.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that. And if
Absolutely.
you made any, you know, you squawked about it, you were out and you had no contract. But you see, with Superman was, I mean, that was the total family package, the family show, you know, and people thinking that he committed, you know, or somebody murdered him or something like that. They had to put so many different pawns to keep people off the trail, because people, they're going to ask about it. I mean, and I hate to bring it up, but that's like Marilyn and the president's brother. I mean,
absolutely,
they had to place a lot of, you know, I wanted to say cock block, but roadblocks, you know, in between getting to the truth.
Oh no, cock block would be an appropriate terminology.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It would absolutely be appropriate terminology. You know,
well, I mean, I honestly think that Tony was put there to handle him, and keep him where he needed to be.
Yeah,
and that's what I want. Thank you for saying that, because that's what I wanted, to keep him where he needed to be, put him in his place. And keep him there. Let him know who the boss is and what his place in that scheme of things was. You're now the actor. Yeah.
Right.
Now you're maybe the actor. I pay you. I'm the boss, and you don't fuck the boss's wife.
Yeah.
I don't think that was even a problem. I'm going to be honest.
So either.
I don't think that was a problem, but I think maybe George had started having a problem with Tony, and then here comes Lenore.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
To just keep him locked down.
It plays out that way too, Karen.
Yes.
It plays out that way very, very succinctly, because what happens, the chain of events leads from Tony to jilting George. George finds this, you know, benevolent soul, Lenore. Right? Lenore finds a Lenore, and and he's in love now. He's smitten, but he can't quite forget Tony, right?
No, because she owns the house.
Yes, exactly.
She owns him in
the house.
Yes. Now think about something. What Karen just said, Amelia. Tony Mannix owns the house.
Yes.
Are you going to tell me? Are you going to sit there and tell me, if you're George Reeves, you're just going to let this woman move in? He didn't ask. He got no permission from anyone. She didn't ask anybody. She got her shit and she moved the fuck in.
Yeah, and you really can't, and that's something else. You don't do that back in those days.
No.
You don't cohabitate. You don't do any of that. So that's what's a little funky, you know.
Well, that's the American morality of the day. You know, everything was above board. You know, everything was, it was all PG.
Yes,
right.
You know, in fact, you know, a hard G. A lot of it was just a hard G. But the problem is twofold in this regard. You have a society saying one thing, and then you have an entire community, Hollywood, doing another. So while America was watching all their favorite stars on television and in the movies back in the 40s and 50s, their favorite stars were cavorting around, screwing each other, fucking monkeys, hanging from the chandelier, They were
Right.
doing all this shit.
But that's human nature. And that's
Yeah.
why they got managers and handlers and all of those people. I mean,
Yeah.
that shit still goes down. That stuff still goes down.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
they have to spin it, unless TMZ gets there first.
Exactly, with their cameras and reporters. There you go.
Amelia, what's your take on this, Amelia?
Well, yeah, I mean, they had a lot to hide, especially whenever the police got there. There was no prints on the gun and all that. They had to hide all that because they didn't want the real person to get caught who did that, especially if it was
Well,
Mannix.
you brought up an interesting point. There's something that we talked about, you and I, the other day when we were prepping for the show.
Hmm.
The police in this case.
Yes.
Now, I'm not going to shit on the entire LA Police Department. They're good people.
They're
In fact, I say again, Karen.
Yeah, exactly.
owned. This
Yeah.
is Benedict Canyon. This is Beverly Hills.
Mannix
Yeah.
owned them.
They're not going to do a damn thing unless somebody is, taking a whiz on their yard.
Exactly.
They're not going to do that.
And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a different type of, when you've got celebrity involved, as Karen just alluded to.
Yes.
When you've got celebrity involved, it's a whole different class of police activity.
Oh, yes. They
Okay.
didn't do any investigation.
Have you ever seen a film? And Karen, you may have seen this. It's a film called SOB. Have you ever seen it? Amelia, have you ever seen a film called SOB?
No, I have not.
It's called Standard Operational Bullshit, SOB. It's a Blake Edwards film. It's a film about the film business and how the police can be easily coerced to join in the party, get laid, get drunk, and forget what they came out for. And that's essentially what happens in much of the movie. You have these police officers, they come in, they're not in the house 5 minutes there to investigate, and they've got their ties off, their jackets are off, their pants are down their knees, They're getting, they're met by, copulation and blowjobs.
Hollywood. I mean, look at Charlie Chaplin. Look at Charlie Chaplin, even Lucy and Desi Ball. Okay.
Yeah.
They were called communists when they spoke out, when they wanted to do different things. And that was to put them back in their place, because it was going to take away their whole, they'll pull the rug right out under you. I mean, if you look at the amount of stars these days, right? You can see them with their DUIs. You can see them with, their drug addictions and all of these different things. And
right,
I lived in Hollywood. Most miserable sacks of shit I've ever met in my life with millions of dollars. Okay.
Yeah.
But
she ain't lying, Amelia.
I'm not lying.
I know her story. Trust me, she ain't lying to you.
And a lot of them, they're into the deviant stuff and they're into the drugs and the alcohol and all of that stuff. But, if you stop cooperating with the powers that be, they're going to pull the rug out from under you. And that's when you start seeing the shit on TMZ. It's still that way. You've got to play the game.
You brought something very important up. I'm very intriguing too. Because my mind goes there. You mentioned TMZ.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this case had happened in the TMZ generation, would we be talking about it?
No. And I'm going to tell you, another thing that you brought up too was like talking about the fingerprints on the gun and stuff like that. Aside from the possibility that the police were, controlled or whatever, or the scene was controlled.
They were paid off. Yeah, absolutely.
By the fixer. Okay. Yeah. Back then, their technology sucked. They didn't have any technology. They worked off of hunches and intuition and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I do as well. That's why when I look at those pictures, I'm like, oh God,
I want to put this up here again because I want people to look at this. George Reeves' case was closed in record time, 1 day, and was never reopened, not even to this very day.
No,
that's inconceivable in today's world. Inconceivable, because there's a camera recording something everywhere. Every human being on the planet right now, virtually everyone, has one of these. It's a mini computer. It's called your phone. It's got a recorder. It's got a camera. It's got motion detectors. It's got, like fucking surveillance equipment in it. You can spy on others like your phone is spying on you, Try to say that one thing. But that's my point, is like the George Reeves case today. Karen's right. We would not be talking about it.
No, we would
It would
not.
be moot. There would be a moot point. No one would care.
No one.
No one would care.
And the only ones that would care are the ones that need a new storyline, because they don't have any more in Hollywood. There's no new original movies, so they go back to the old shit.
Yeah.
But it back then, I mean, when you had contracts, Hollywood was very small, very exclusive,
Yeah, there was a community.
It was
Everybody
a very
knew
small community. And, if you, even the people, the so-called witnesses, right? They were in with the studio. They can't go against anything, that was that is expected of them. Otherwise, they've got no jobs. They can't do anything. Yeah. Look at an interesting case that you might want to think about. This is, how about Frances Farmer? That was a good one.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
I mean, Frances was, she was very outspoken, and she ended up lobotomized.
Yeah. True story, an absolutely true case. We are, I want to tell people, we are covering the Marilyn Monroe alleged suicide, death by barbiturates, so-called.
Right.
And it's funny how you can kill yourself with barbiturates and not have any barbiturates in your stomach.
In your stomach, exactly.
Again, another empty stomach. We're going to talk about that. We have photos that have been released. Not going to tell you who let them out, but it shows John F. Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe taken from about a flight up, and it's down on them, taken in the White House. And it's an official White House photo, but it's not been seen for almost 55 years. And for a very good reason. No one wanted you to see these, but there is a group of people, patriots, who make sure that they have the legal wherewithal to get freedom of information requests acted upon. And they acted upon this, and they got some info, some very substantial information, in fact. We don't play around with certain things. I'm not going to get my hands dirty with government stuff, because governments can make you disappear. But if something is factually based and there's information to corroborate it, I will get it and I will broadcast it. And I've been very open and honest about that, and I've said that before. But I'm not going to step on any governmental toes. I can assure you to do it, because I ain't that stupid, Pretty smart guy when it comes to stuff like that. Always make sure that we have our legal I's dotted and T's crossed. The Maryland case is going to be an interesting one. Here's what I believe in, and I'm going to throw this out there to you, and we can have like a round table discussion. I believe that George Reeves was targeted. I believe that his unhappiness to satisfy his bosses, plural bosses, I believe that cost him his career, his happiness, his money. I believe it cost him eventually his life. I think that they don't like outspoken people in that realm, in that community. They didn't then, and they don't today. I know an industry within the film industry that's very cloistered, very small, Everybody knows everybody else. Kind of like the adult film business. Everybody knows everybody. And you got to watch whose toes you step on, because you could get stepped on real fast and real hard. I will tell you that I think he stepped on a couple of toes, and in his cavalier attitude, didn't give a shit who he stepped on. He wanted his career where it was as a serious actor. He did not want to be looked at as a one-dimensional cartoon character, and I think it cost him. Even though when he re-upped the contract, even though I believe it was a ploy to shut him up, I really believe that. I think Eddie Mannix orchestrated the entire thing, to be quite frank with you. I think he told George, we're going to double your salary. We're going to sign you for another year. After that year, you can do whatever you want. You can leave the studio, go to another studio, go to, 20th Century Fox, go to MGM, whatever, big studio back in the day. And there were only a handful of studios. You had Paramount, MGM, 20th Century Fox. Other than that, you really didn't have a lot. They were the big three. In fact, they still are the big three. But that's what I believe. If you guys want to talk about that, let's talk.
Sure. I believe that.
What are your thoughts on what I just said?
Well, okay. I believe that he was murdered because there was another attempt on his life before. He was in a car accident and his brakes were cut.
Yeah, they cut his brakes, couldn't stop the car, and crashed into basically crashed into a tree, barely escaping death.
Yes.
Had he not been in, because he was a fairly big guy and in pretty good shape. I guess you had to be in shape to wear that costume.
Right. You had to be Superman, right? To be Superman.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And so
but they someone did try to cut his brakes. They did actually succeed in cutting his brakes.
Yeah. There was an attempt, and of course he just walked away with just the cut on his forehead, they said. So when that didn't work, of course they tried this as well, and of course this one succeeded.
It was so bad at one point for him, and we talked about this briefly. We mentioned professional wrestling at one point, and if you ever get to see a film called Hollywood Confidential, there's a scene in there that Ben Affleck plays George Reeves. There's a scene in there, and I actually found the real footage of George Reeves practicing to become a professional wrestler. I swear to you, this is for real. There's an actual reel on YouTube, and it's got George Reeves, the real guy, practicing falls. He's wearing an old karate gi with a white belt. Karen, you know the picture I'm talking about?
No, I don't. No, I'd like to see it.
Yeah, Ben Affleck and oh God, the woman that plays his mother, her name is Nancy Olson, and you'll recognize her immediately because she's been in a ton of Jerry Lewis movies. She always plays this quirky older woman, a terrific actress. Rest in peace. But she played George's mother in this film, and Ben Affleck played George Reeves. The film also stars Adrian Brody, Academy Award winner Adrian Brody, as a newspaper reporter. So if you get a chance to see Hollywood Confidential, please, by all means, do so. It is an amazing movie. So
your PIN to unlock the device.
Sorry about that.
some lady was talking to me.
I was trying to power off my darn phone because it keeps going.
That's all. It's all good. Look, this is live. We let it roll.
Right.
So Karen, what do you think of my hypothesis?
No, I totally think that the guy was murdered. Towards the end, I mean, there was just too many things happening. He's got, the executive's mistress who owns his house, and all of a sudden they doubled his contract, and he hated doing it. And then they bring in Lenore. I don't like Lenore. I just don't like the look of her.
You would be absolutely right.
All right.
In any of her pictures, I read up a little bit about her, and
Yeah.
she, they call her a socialite or whatever. I mean, she was a party girl, but she also had a little.
She was a
violence
con
to her.
artist, is what she
Yeah,
was.
and she died of alcoholism, so it was
Yeah.
either she liked it a lot or she was a guilty conscience. So,
Both.
I
agree
still
with
have
you
to go with my
completely.
gut. I have to
Yeah.
go with my gut. When I look at the pictures, some of the last pictures of him, you can see it. I can feel it in his spirit, whatever. This guy, I mean, he was going through a rash of shit, and there was no way out. And, I think he was a former shadow of himself, and he couldn't speak up anymore, man. He just couldn't.
Yeah.
And maybe
And
he
I
did
think-
attempt. Maybe he
And
did
that's
attempt.
really important, Karen, that you said that. It's really, really important that you said that. He couldn't speak up anymore. And that's why we do what we do. Part of what I do as a psychic and medium, in addition to providing information for police departments and governments, I take the information spirit gives me and I feel it. And I can't explain what I feel it. I know it instinctively. I know it intellectually, but I feel it here. And I let that feeling permeate me. And then I say, okay, walk me through what happened. And I know George Reeves the last few days like I've never known him. And I got to tell you that I think this guy is, I think he knows who killed him. I think he wants some justice. He does not want retribution. He's not one of these eye for an eye guys. He wants justice. He wants to be able to rest in peace. That's what he wants.
All right.
We have a very, very disturbing case Thursday.
Yes.
And I want to warn people now, you might want to, if you're into the bizarre and the macabre, you're going to love this show, but you might want to warn households that have small children, keep them away from YouTube and Facebook come Thursday night, because we are we're going to pull the layers of the onion back.
And if you have a weak stomach as well.
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
Yes.
We will have a disclaimer every 5 minutes. I will tell you that now. We are right now celebrating another radio station, by the way, Amelia. WOFT. WOFT. Ask me where that's at.
Let's see. Podbean?
No.
No.
It's in Florida, you dummy. You live in Florida.
It's in Florida. You got my home state.
WOFT.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I also want to thank Jimmy Thunder from Down Under, our guy in New Zealand. We are number one, Karen. I don't know if you know this or not. We're very proud of this. We're number one in New Zealand and Australia. Happy to tell people that. We are now on 100. Listen to me. We are on 314 radio stations globally. We are also on, oh my God, how many podcast platforms? Something like 250 right now, 252.
Yeah, 250, 251, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
I'm telling you, Karen, I'm like horse shit, kid. I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere, man. I am. But let me tell everybody that we're going to have a couple of really interesting shows. I heard back from the San Francisco Police Department. They have agreed to join us for part 2 of the Zodiac Killer. We had such a good time with the Zodiac Killer. We're going to do it again. We need like like 5 shows just for the Zodiac.
I would say at least 4 more.
Yeah. That you want to talk about, Karen, a convoluted case. Holy shit.
I know of it. I like to follow and research a lot of these cases. And I got to tell you, Angelo, you were just talking a little while ago about your feeling. And I got to tell you, I was almost in tears right now.
Yeah.
I get a very strong, not so pleasant feeling. So now.
I can tell you, I did too the other night. There were 2 people who were prime suspects in that case. I have to shake my head when I think about
I know.
some police work. And we talked about this. It's amazing. Arthur Lee Allen is the name that does not sit right with me.
Yeah.
Okay. That name does not sit right with me for a couple of reasons. After he died, they found the Zodiac hood in his garage. Okay. After he died, they found notes in his garage that matched the Zodiac handwriting. The only thing they couldn't match was the fucking DNA. And
Yeah.
I can't explain that, and that irks at my spirit like you don't even know. They couldn't match the DNA. And it just is perplexing, which is what I said before, Amelia. There wasn't one. There had to be at least 2.
There was speculated that there was multiple ones.
Yes. Yeah, and that's why I say there were at least 2. Possibly more, but I know in my gut, Karen, I know at least 2. For sure. That had clear connections to each other. And we talked about them on the show the other night.
Yes. When you showed me that hoodie, I just went back and I was like, my face just turned whiter than I am. I was like,
well, I showed you
yes.
how Arthur Lee Allen changed his appearance so drastically.
Very drastically.
In 10, 11 years, he went from looking one way to looking like a completely different guy. You didn't even recognize it the same person.
I could not recognize the same person.
The only way you knew was his driver's license.
Yes. That's the only way.
Because it was the same license number. State of California is not going to risk that for sure. Let's see. Okay. Kevin says, I love all these types of topics. You guys once again grab my attention. Keep up the fantastic work. Well, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. John Holoyak says, hello, Angela. Hey, John, I'll see you on vacay in Wildwood next year, but I'm going down this weekend, brother. We're going to say hi, Angela and Miss Amelia. Oh, they called you Miss Amelia.
Oh, thank you.
You get that one. And Kevin says, what's up, guys? Not much, Kevin. We're hanging out, brother. Oh, by the way, you guys out there, let me bring Kevin back up here. While we have Kevin over here, Kevin is collecting those pop tops from cans. Okay. He's endeavoring to help the Ronald McDonald House. All right. And so they take these aluminum pop tops and they cash them in. Whatever you got, find Kevin Abreu on Facebook, hook up with him, and send him your pop tops from your cans, from your aluminum soda cans. That's what he's looking for. Send them to him. I don't care if it's 10 or 1,000. I mean, someone just sent him, I think, the 4,000, 5,000 of them. Amelia, did you send yours out yet?
I'm getting ready to. I've collected some, and I told my friends at work as well. So I've got like 30 to send them.
Okay, terrific. I appreciate that. Thank you. So listen, Karen, you're going to join us Thursday for the Black Dahlia.
Yes.
Fabulous. We're going to have a good time. Well, folks, for Karen Rayner, for Amelia Pitbull Johnson, I am the Mad Dog. And you know what? You don't get it. I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.